loiter over a target and collect intelligence and surveillance and reconnaissance is really powerful.
Some of the algorithms that this piece of equipment runs means it can do the job of a number of different people all in one go.
Adan Garar was said by U.S. intelligence to be the mastermind of the 2013 attack on the Westgate Mall.
In the past 7 months, U.S. strikes have killed the leader of al-Shabaab.
Got a daylight camera, we've also got a thermal camera. So it can identify the human form out to around about 500 metres.
Saudi-born Abu Bakr al-Makki was killed along with 3 al-qaeda terrorists.
U.S. drone strike slays senior ISIS leaders in Syria. News broke of a successful drone strike in Syria that targeted 2 senior leaders of ISIS. The operation was carried out by the U.S. military as part of a larger effort to combat the terrorist group and prevent it from carrying out attacks against U.S. personnel and interests in the region. The first target of the strike was a notorious smuggler of weapons and fighters who was operating in an area near the Russian military base in Syria. The second target was a deputy chief for ISIS in Syria. Both targets were successfully eliminated in separate strikes, effectively dealing a blow to the organization's leadership structure. Commenting on the success of the operation, Matthew Levitt, the director for the Reinhardt Counterterrorism Program at the Washington Institute for Policy.
More than 120 airstrikes have been carried out by the United States against terror groups. The U.S. has reportedly killed al-Qaeda propaganda chief in a drone strike in Yemen. Drone blew up their vehicle in the western province of Marib.
Emphasized the importance of continued efforts to target ISIS's senior leadership. He noted that the organization still poses a credible threat on the ground in Syria, despite suffering significant battlefield defeats in recent years. Levitt also highlighted the critical role played by U.S. forces in the region, both in terms of collecting intelligence and taking decisive action to neutralize threats. He stated that the success of the drone strikes is a testament to the continued presence and capabilities of U.S. military forces in the region.
Or it'd either take a boat, a full-scale helicopter. This obviously replaces both of those.
The U.S. has intensified its long-running drone war against the al-Qaeda in the country since President Donald Trump took charge.
We call on the service of Ukraine all the simplest drones, which you use to shoot nature.
So you could have somebody in a bunker, for example, in Norfolk, flying this drone activity.
It's only going to kind of accelerate this move toward lethal autonomous weapons on the battlefield.
The ongoing threat posed by ISIS is a matter of grave concern for governments around the world. While the group has suffered significant losses on the battlefield, it remains a virtual organization on the internet and continues to attract new recruits. In addition to carrying out attacks in the Middle East, ISIS has also been responsible for fatal attacks in Europe and elsewhere. The U.S. military's ongoing efforts to target ISIS's leadership are crucial to preventing the group from regaining its former strength and posing a significant threat to global security. As such, the U.S. will continue to conduct operations where necessary to eliminate threats to U.S. personnel and interests in the region. In recent years, the use of drones in targeted slayings has become increasingly prevalent, particularly in the fight against terrorism.
Saudi-born Abu Bakr al-Makki was killed along with 3 al-Qaeda terrorists.
The operator can push it back to the point where it can't be heard by the target. You could be anywhere in the world as long as you can get a telephone signal.
In addition to these airstrikes, U.S. Special Forces have also conducted a number of ground raids against the group.
While controversial, these strikes have been effective in eliminating high-value targets without putting U.S. forces at risk. The success of the recent drone strikes in Syria is a reminder that the fight against terrorism is ongoing and requires a sustained effort. While progress has been made in recent years, there is still much work to be done to ensure that organizations like ISIS do not regain their former strength. In conclusion, the recent drone strikes in Syria that eliminated 2 senior leaders of ISIS represent a significant victory in the fight against terrorism. The success of the operation is a testament to the continued presence and capabilities of U.S. military forces in the region and highlights the critical importance of ongoing efforts to target the group's leadership. U.S. drone slays terrorist in Yemen. In a major victory for the U.S. in the war against terror, the top propaganda chief in Yemen has been slayed in a drone strike. The Saudi-born Abu Bakr al-Makki was eliminated along with 3 other terrorists when the drone struck their vehicle in the western province of Marib.
The al-Qaeda has thrived in the chaos of the civil war, which has gripped Yemen for nearly 3 years now.
Deadliest terrorist attack in Kenya since the 1998 bombing of the American embassy there.
In the past 7 months, U.S. strikes have killed the leader of al-Shabaab.
The U.S. considers al-Qaeda as most dangerous among its franchises.
This is just the latest in a series of strikes carried out by the U.S. in its intensified drone war in Yemen. Since President Donald Trump took office, more than 120 airstrikes have been conducted against terror groups in the country, with U.S. Special Forces also conducting numerous ground raids. The U.S. has been relentless in its pursuit of al-Qaeda, and the demise of Abu Bakr al-Maki is a significant blow to the group's propaganda efforts. The U.S. will continue to use all available means to combat the threat of terrorism and protect American citizens and interests around the world. With each successful drone strike, the U.S. shows that it is committed to taking the fight to the terrorists and will not rest until they are eliminated. The war against terror may be a long and difficult one, but the U.S. remains determined to succeed.
Its director of operations, its head of intelligence, and now the planner of the Westgate attack.
U.S. military claims that several top leaders of the terror group in Yemen have been killed in recent months.
Al-Shabaab claimed it was in retaliation for Kenya having sent troops into Somalia.
Blow to terrorist group. In a significant blow to ISIS, a U.S. drone strike has slayed a key leader of the terrorist group, along with 30 others in the compound. The former Taliban leader was believed to have joined ISIS, and there was a $10 million bounty on his head. The strike happened 2 days ago in Afghanistan, with intelligence provided by the Afghan National Directorate of Security. The agency is highly capable and has been instrumental in providing intelligence to President Ghani and Chief Executive Abdullah. Reports indicate that the same individual who joined ISIS from Pakistan placed an improvised explosive device and slayed himself. While the news is yet to be confirmed, it is a big piece for ISIS, especially with their expansion into other areas like Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a key battleground, and disillusioned Taliban members are trying to find a new banner to fly, with many turning to ISIS. The U.S. has been relentless in its efforts to eliminate ISIS and other terrorist groups in the region. The use of drones in targeted slayings has proven to be an effective tactic, eliminating high-value targets without putting U.S. troops in harm's way. The drone strike is another example of the U.S.'s commitment to combating the threat of terrorism and protecting American citizens and interests around the world. The war against terror may be a long and challenging one, but the U.S. remains determined to succeed. This latest strike is a significant blow to ISIS, which has suffered numerous defeats in recent years. While the group still exists as a virtual organization on the internet, its ability to carry out attacks has been significantly weakened.
2 kilometre frontage, you could do that in about 10 minutes. If you were to put 2 guys in a vehicle and have them drive down there, you're talking up to about an hour or so. It's a lot more flexible. We can put an eye in the sky. Some of the algorithms that this piece of equipment runs means it can do the job of a number of different people all in one go.
Loiter over a target and collect intelligence and surveillance and reconnaissance is really powerful.
We've got a daylight camera, we've also got a thermal camera. So it can identify the human form out to around about 500 meters.
U.S. drone strike success. The man, Aiden Gerard, was suspected of being the mastermind behind the 2013 attack on a shopping mall in Nairobi, Kenya, which left more than 60 people slayed and 175 wounded. The strike, carried out by a Predator drone, occurred as Gerard was traveling by car through southern Somalia. The drone launched Hellfire missiles on its first pass, and then circled around to fire again just to be sure. This strike marks another success in the long-running but almost invisible battle against al-Shabaab, one of al-Qaeda's many affiliates. Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the 2013 attack, which was in retaliation for Kenya having sent troops into Somalia. Since then, the U.S. has been targeting the group with airstrikes, and in the past 7 months, the leader of al-Shabaab, its director of operations, its head of intelligence, and now the planner of the Westgate attack have all been slayed by U.S. strikes. The U.S. intelligence community had long been searching for Gerard, and his passing away is a significant victory in the fight against terrorism.
A U.S. drone in Somalia has killed one of the world's most wanted terrorists.
In Nairobi, Kenya, which left more than 60 dead and 175 wounded.
The man is suspected of planning the 2013 attack on a shopping mall in Kenya.
Adan Gerard was said by U.S. intelligence to be the mastermind of the 2013 attack on the Westgate Mall.
The 2013 attack on the Westgate Mall in Nairobi was a gruesome affair that lasted for 3 days. 4 gunmen sent by al-Shabaab took over the mall, singling out non-Muslims for demise. Hundreds of shoppers fled, but it took Kenyan forces 3 days to regain control of the building. It was the biggest terrorist attack in Kenya since the 1998 explosions of the American embassy there, which al-Shabaab also claimed responsibility for. The attack on the Westgate Mall sent shockwaves throughout the region and served as a reminder of the continued threat of terrorism in East Africa. The use of drone strikes has become a controversial topic in recent years, with some arguing that they cause more harm than good. However, the U.S. government has defended their use, stating that they are a necessary tool in the fight against terrorism.
The strike was carried out Thursday by a Predator drone as Adan Garar was traveling by car through southern Somalia. 4 gunmen sent by al-Shabaab took over the mall, singling out non-Muslims for death. It was another round in the long-running but almost invisible battle against al-Shabaab. Predator launched Hellfire missiles on its first pass over the car, circled around, and fired again just to be sure. Hundreds of shoppers fled, but it would be 3 days before Kenyan forces could regain control.
Drones allow for precision strikes that minimize collateral damage, and they can be used in areas that are difficult to access by ground troops. The U.S. military has been using drones in Somalia since at least 2007, and they have become an integral part of the fight against al-Shabaab. Despite the successes of the drone program, there are concerns about the legality of the strikes. The U.S. government has been criticized for carrying out strikes without congressional approval and for not providing sufficient transparency about the program. There have also been reports of civilian casualties as a result of the strikes, although the U.S. military maintains that they do everything possible to minimize the risk of harm to non-combatants. In conclusion, the demise of Adan Garar is a significant victory in the fight against terrorism. His demise marks another successful strike against al-Shabaab, and it sends a message that the U.S. will not tolerate acts of terrorism.